Hey, hey, hey. Happy Friday. Welcome to my channel. My name is Kaylee. Good to see you guys here. Let's do this. Okay. So today we are going to be talking about the new moon in Virgo. I'm going to go through a little bit about the sign of Virgo, a little bit about Mercury. We're going to go through the zodiac signs, do a little bit of a live reading for each. And there will be time at the end. If you guys would like, I can pull some tarot cards or look at the transits in your chart. Just give me one quick second. Hey, what's up, JLo? Hey. So, a couple of quick things before I open up charts and start talking about the signs and whatnot. My books are open if you're looking for a private consultation. Just head on over to my website, kayleebergana.com. It is linked in the description below. Um, I think that's pretty much it. If you would like to do a uh, live reading today while I'm streaming, instructions are also below. There's two ways you can do it. Either you can send me something through PayPal, or you can use the pay link through my website. Either will work. If you wanted me to look at like the new moon in your chart, be sure to send me your birth data so that I can actually pull it up on and actually take a look. Okay, so let's get into it. Da-da-da. So new moon will be on my Monday. Hold this up. Happy Virgo season, by the way. Happy birthday if you're a Virgo. Oh, that is the wrong window. All right. So this new moon falling at 11 degrees of Virgo. It is actually applying in opposition to Saturn. Now it is 5 degrees away. New moon will be at 11. Saturn is at 16. But Saturn is retrograde, meaning moving backwards. And the new moon, well, the moon moves really quickly. Within a few hours after the exact conjunction between sun and moon, before the moon is even visible again in the evening sky, it will oppose Saturn exactly. So Saturn is very much a part of this energetic exchange of the new moon. Now, really, from the chart, honestly, there are no other major aspects coming off of the sun and moon or Saturn. There is like a very light square to Jupiter. Jupiter is still within the 3 degrees range of the square to Saturn. So we're still kind of within that square window. And the moon, of course, later on in the evening, will also square Jupiter. But other than that, there's nothing that's really popping out as super prominent right this second anyway. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be a quiet new moon. This is the lunation right before the eclipses begin, after all. Um, so we have this new moon, and then the next full moon immediately after that is actually the first eclipse of this particular eclipse window. So we're kind of in like a preparation phase, you could say. A little bit of a prep phase. So I actually wanted to read a little bit to you guys about Mercury before we get further into anything here. And I actually forgot to show the chart. Oh, oh my goodness. So here's the new moon, opposition to Saturn, square to Jupiter. All right, and I'll demonstrate real quick. So it takes 3 hours for the moon to move a full degree away from the sun, so it's going to take quite a few hours before it actually squares or opposes Saturn exactly. And then into the next day is when the square to Jupiter occurs. So it takes a little bit for those alignments to play out. First, we have this conjunction, then the opposition, and then the square. So if we start moving forward a day at a time from there, the moon will then oppose Neptune and then square Mars. Continue on, join with Venus in Virgo, not Virgo, sorry, Libra, make a sextile to Mercury, trine around the same time, sorry, trine Jupiter, and then make a sextile to Mercury. Keep going around. Mars has moved into Cancer by that point. Then I'll trine Mars. Then it will make a trine to Saturn. Keep going around. Keep going around. I'm actually really looking forward to this phase here when we're at the opening trine and it's making this nice little grand trine to Uranus there. That'll be nice. By the way, right in the middle of this particular lunation cycle, Pluto will make its last ingress into Capricorn. And then right after that, we have our first eclipse of the fall. Right in around there. Good stuff. Okay. Let me get this back up. Doo-doo-doo. So I've been reading quite a bit about Mercury. Um, I actually just picked up for myself Gary P. Ga- Gary P. Caton's book on Mercury and the elemental year. It's fascinating. Um, he goes into the magical cycle of Mercury, the 3 degrees that Mercury comes back to during its retrograde cycle, how all of that plays into your own birth chart, and then how we can work with it on a yearly basis. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to read from that right now, but I am going to read a little bit about what Vedic Valens says about Mercury before we get into what Virgo means. Because in Hellenistic astrology, in order to understand the signs, you must first understand the planets. And I had it bookmarked, but then the bookmark just fell out. Of course it did. Just give me a sec here. So here's the thing about the signs. Each sign was seen as the domicile of a planet. In order to understand the sign, you needed to understand the nature of the planet that ruled that sign. And Mercury, being such a trickster, it's a little bit more complicated than first appears. All of the planets have either a benefic or a malefic nature, except for Mercury. Mercury is neutral and will play to both. Will play to both teams. It is said. One team when he is as Morning Star, team day, and the other team when he's on team night as an evening star. Okay, so Mercury, Hermes, or the twinkling one. So this comes from Vedic Valens. And actually, in particular, this is Chris Brennan's translation of Vedic Valens. The star of Mercury signifies education, writings, disputation, speech, brotherhood, interpretation, the office of herald, numbers, calculations, geometry, commerce, youth, play, theft, community, messages, service, profit, discoveries, following, contest, wrestling. You'd think that would be Mars, but no, Mercury. Declamation, sealing, sending messages, weighing, suspense, testing, hearing, versatility. He is the bestower of critical thinking and judgment, lord of brothers and of younger children, and author of all things pertaining to the market and the craft of banking. So commerce is ruled by Mercury. Properly speaking, he makes temple builders, modelers, sculptors, doctors, teachers, lawyers, orators, philosophers, architects, musicians, diviners, sacrificers, augurs, dream interpreters, braiders, weavers, those who are methodical. Mercury has a deeply um, mystic side as well as a logical side. Those who are in charge of managing wars and strategic actions, those who utilize paradoxes and craftiness in calculations or false reasoning, those who are strong performers or mime actors, making their livelihood from display while still wandering and roaming and unstable, and those with knowledge of the heavens, astrologers, or those who seek to become knowledgeable, undertaking the marvelous work with pleasure and contentment for the sake of the honor and the benefit it brings. For this star holds the power of many pursuits, granting occupations in accordance with the variations of the zodiacal signs or the interweavings of the different configurations of the stars. For some it gives knowledge, while for others brokerage, service for some, while it procures trade or teaching for others, and for some agricultural or temple keeping or public office. Moreover, for some it grants the ability to exercise authority or leasing rentals or labor contracting or rhythmic performance or managing public services or even bodyguarding or wearing the linen robes of the gods or bestowing the pomp of powerful men. It brings about all the irregularities in our fortunes and many distractions from our goals, and even more so when the star is upon signs or degrees ruled by malefics, in which case things may even take a turn for the worse. Of the parts of the body, it rules the hands, the shoulders, the fingers, the joints, the belly, the hearing, the windpipe, the intestines, the tongue. Of course, the tongue, that makes sense, right? Of substances, it is the lord of copper, of all coinage, giving, taking, for the god is common. And that's really interesting. I always thought copper was Venus, but no, copper is Mercury. What's really interesting, actually, if I go back to Venus really quickly, it actually doesn't mention Vidi's Valens doesn't mention a metal associated with Venus. So that's really interesting. So let's it you can see how it totally depends on what source you're pulling from, where an association comes in. Because Venus is associated with like precious stones and multicolored adornments and olives, things like that. But she's not associated with the metal according to Vedi's Valence. But Mercury is associated with copper and coins. So that's really quite interesting. Um, good stuff. Okay. The next thing I wanted to look at in here before we move on. Um, no, actually, I think that was good. I just had a nap, so I apologize. I'm a little less organized than I intended to be, but my body said nap, so I listened. I can't find it. Okay, that's fine. So that's a little bit about Mercury. There's a lot of associations with Mercury. Now, the rest of the The clues that are necessary to understand Virgo are these. Virgo is an earth temple. Hey PK. Virgo is an earth temple, so it is the feminine temple. You could also call it the negative energy or the yin energy temple of Mercury. It is the only sign of the zodiac that has both a ruler and an exalted guest that are the same planet. It's weird, but it is. It is what it is. Um, I off the top of my head, I'm blanking right now on why it is. There's also that Mercury is also the exaltation ruler of Virgo, but I'm sure I could find it in my notes somewhere the next time we meet. So it is the feminine yin earth temple of Mercury. In the Thema Mundi, let's see if I can find a picture of this real quick actually. In the Thema Mundi, um good question. I don't have them handy at the moment. I would have to find those pages again, which actually probably isn't that difficult. And yeah, just keep in mind that's just one source. So it's not in a list, but I can look real quick here. So the sun of substances rules gold, crops rules wheat and barley. The moon, you can guess, is probably silver, but let's see. Of substances rules silver and glass. He's not nice to Saturn. Interestingly, Saturn's not associated with a metal either, not according to Valence. Asterisk. Jupiter says of substances he rules tin. Mars says of substances he rules iron. And the regalia of clothing as a result of the ram, so like wool and wine and legumes. Interesting. I always associated wine with Venus, but no, apparently Mars is wine. That's interesting. I guess Mercury would be the last one. Yeah, so that's really interesting. And yeah, it definitely shifts over time and depending on whose translation you're reading, um, different planets become associated with different things. So good good to know. Okay. That's that. So back to Virgo and the theme of Mundi. All right, PK, you distracted me. That's okay. See if I can pull up a picture real quick. Yes, I can. Oh, oh, Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. You were the fastest. All right. So the theme of Mundi was said to be handed down to us by Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. It's a really mysterious way to sign off on a book. We don't know if this was an actual person, if it was somebody um claiming to be the the thrice great themselves. We don't know exactly where this comes from. It's very mysterious, but this is the thema mundi. So it's considered to be a learning tool to help people understand astrology and the mysteries of astrology. Um, it's uh, it's really fascinating. All right, so the thema mundi puts Cancer as the first house. Interesting also in that Cancer is considered to be the birthing gateway, right? So Cancer is the first house with the moon being the ruler of Cancer. In the thema mundi, the third house is where Virgo falls. Mercury, of course, is considered to be the ruler of Virgo. So you see Virgo here. What is interesting about the thema mundi is you can sit with it and learn all sorts of different things about a bunch of the different aspects and the secrets of the zodiac. There is an interesting play between aspect theory and um, the aspects between the two rulers of sect. One thing I always really love noting and kind of like bringing up when talking about Saturn in particular is that Saturn is the god of oppositions or the planet of oppositions. Is he's both of both of his domiciles are opposite the sect lights. The sect lights being the sun and moon, obviously. Well, I guess sorry, not obviously. I'm using some weird terminology, so I'm trying to elaborate a little bit as I go. Mercury is not associated with any particular aspect. The other planets are. Venus is considered to be the planet that is associated with the sextile. Mars is considered to be the planet associated with the square. Jupiter is associated with the trine, and Saturn with the opposition. But for whatever reason, Mercury is not considered to be associated with any particular aspect. And I think actually part of that is that Mercury can only get like a maximum of 40 to 42 degrees away from the sun. So not far enough to make a classical aspect. The signs next to each other cannot see each other. They're blind to each other. So they're not considered to be in aspect to one another. Maybe this is part of why Mercury is not tied to any particular aspect. But the rest of the planets, the aspect that they make to the sun, the rulership, the domicile of the sun in their domiciles speaks to the nature of their aspect that they rule. So I think that's really fascinating. Mercury doesn't have one. So interesting. Oh, hey. Hi, Chance. Okay, some other things. Virgo, symbolized by the goddess or the virgin or the priestess. I have heard it said that there are some places where the virgin or the priestess is pictured with wings. Virgo is considered a double-bodied sign. In modern astrology, we call it a I'm actually wow, that's so fun. I'm actually forgetting what they call it in modern astrology. Um, oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Double-bodied, aka it starts with an M. Help me out, chat. Help me out, chat. J-Lo, you know. I don't remember. I've gotten so immersed in Hellenistic, I'm forgetting the modern astrology terms. Anyway, um, that's embarrassing. Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces all are called a a thing. What the fuck are they called? There's your cardinal, your fixed, and your holy shit. I'm gonna be stuck on that for a minute. Anyway, we're gonna move on. The signature of the double-bodied signs is such that there is immutable. Thank you. Oh my god. I'm like, mm, PK and Jenny to the rescue. Thank you. That's what they call it in modern astrology, but it used to be called double-bodied. So the nature of this double-bodied sign is such that for one part of the season, we experience one way, and there exists a dramatic turn towards the next season within that sign. So with your cardinal, also called tropical in Hellenistic astrology, there's a hint there for you. In the tropical signs, there's an initiation. The cardinal signs, there's an initiation. In the fixed signs, we see this steadiness of the energy, and then in the mutable or the double-bodied signs, we have this completion and this transmutation that occurs. Virgo was one of these seasons. Another really cool thing about the sign, the tropical sign of Virgo actually, is that it's considered to be a fairly straight sign. So this is something that you would see if you pull it up in Stellarium, which of course I still haven't downloaded. I got I gotta make note of that. Get Stellarium. Um, but what's really cool is now that Mercury is pulling away from the sun and should be visible, if you go out at night, Mercury is in Leo right now, but it's approaching it's approaching going back into Virgo. Um, as you go and look at Mercury, as you see him pulling away from the sun, while he's in Virgo, he'll be in the sky for a prolonged period of time after or before the sun sets. In this case, as a um, as an evening or a morning star, sorry, before the sun rises. So let me pull the chart back up for a second. Ooh, there's actually pull this back a couple of hours. One more hour. So as Mercury is getting closer and closer to Virgo, the sign begins to straighten out a little bit and it gets a little bit more vertical. It's not perfectly 90 degrees from the horizon, but it gets pretty close. So Mercury will be in the sky for a longer period of time, giving us, those of us that are interested in actually catching a glimpse of the most elusive of the visible planets, more of a chance to go and see it. So honestly, I would highly encourage you while we're in Virgo season and while Mercury is going through Virgo before he begins his descent back into the sun to go and see him in the morning sky, especially once he crosses over into Virgo itself. There's, there's something really magical about actually catching a glimpse of Mercury. I've only been able to see him once so far. Um, and it was really it was it was impactful. I think I cried a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. All right. So as we're in this moment of the new moon, and we're getting ready to go into eclipse season, what are the intentions that you want to set? Keep in mind the nature of Mercury, or we are talking about a trickster god. We are talking about the need to integrate with Mercury the above and below at all times. Right now, we're in this morning star phase where we're really trying to look ahead, trying to utilize more of our I would actually say we're trying to utilize more of our logical faculties, especially while Mercury is direct and a morning star. We've just come out of this retrograde period where while Mercury's retrograde, We're encouraged to go within. We're encouraged to engage with the mystical. Remember the list of associations I just read? There's a lot of mystical and divinatory associations with Mercury as we're trying to access the subconscious. So now that we're direct again and we're nearing maximum elongation, what did you learn over the Mercury retrograde period, and what do you want to integrate? Because this new moon is in a sign ruled by Mercury, it's the perfect time to figure out kinda or to integrate rather, what you learned or what came up, what challenging and difficult things came up for you during the retrograde and how you can integrate that or make some kinda change. Because we're in a mutable sign. I remembered the word, thank you. We're in a mutable sign, it's all about making changes and completing processes. But it's a new moon, so there's still a seed of something here. With the opposition to Saturn, especially Saturn retrograde, and we're getting really close to the period of the Saturn Sun opposition. So that is going to be some interesting archetypal stuff that comes up over the next week. But as we're integrating and looking at the above and below because of Mercury, we're also going to come face to face with some kind of Saturnian archetype. Okay, so what do you want to change or add or integrate or complete that is influenced by a Saturnian thing? Okay, so we're looking at our long-term plans. We're looking at something that can help stabilize us in the long term. But Saturn is in Pisces, so we're also looking at the mystical. We're also looking at reaching beyond the boundaries of what might be considered normal or 3D or socially acceptable in some ways. We might be wanting to integrate or add something new to our schedule that is considered more emotionally mature. Um, some of the boring sides of Saturn, anyway. This might actually be a really good opportunity if you have experienced any pronounced difficulties of the Saturn Jupiter square. You've been wanting to go towards the Jupiter house, Gemini, and Saturn has held you back in some way. This new moon and then the lunar eclipse could actually be a really potent period for um helping yourself break through whatever that Saturnian thing was that's holding you back or that brought up some extra obstacles for you to navigate through. Kind of depends on your chart and what's going on in your own personal life, of course, but that's just a theme to keep in mind. Yeah, I think those are the biggest themes, the biggest takeaways I would kind of look out for. Um, I think I think especially how this relates into this square that we've been experiencing. I think that's going to be the most potent use of this new moon energy. So let's go through the signs. It's been a while since I've done this, guys. It has been a while. I still like the idea of doing Pisces to Aries. Sorry, Chance, but but that's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna talk real briefly about what house the new moon is falling in and what axis that is lighting up for you with the Saturn opposition and the Jupiter square. I might pull some cards. I think I will. I think I will pull some cards just because it's been some time and kind of want to. We'll see how my energy is doing. And like I said, if you guys want me to do a personal reading live anyway, hit me up. I am down. Just open my phone up. Oh, nice. Thank you, Peter. All right, Peter will be up first. Um, Peter, if you could message me, you can either send it on YouTube, or if you're on Telegram, you can send me a message on Telegram just of what your when your birthday is so that I can open up your chart. That'll be fun. I think that'll be really fun. Okay. He says, "No, too bad." Aren't you in a long car ride? That's funny. Okay. Too bad, Chance. Too bad. I swear, I'm gonna do it now every single time just because Chance hates it. Good stuff. Alright. Okay. So I got a new deck. I'm not gonna lie. I treated myself a little bit recently. I got a new deck and I'm really excited about it. It's called the Crow Tarot. It's really pretty. I've only been able to pull it out a couple of times and I'm gonna play with it for this reading. I'm feeling it. I'm really feeling into the trickster energy of Mercury, so we're gonna play with that. Too bad. Oh, that's good. All right. Let's see if how does this work? I forget. Oh goodness. Okay. So let's start with Pisces. Hey Pisces, how you doing? How are you doing? Okay, so new moon in the seventh house. That's really nice. I really like that. Um, so I guess actually we should probably check in. How are you, Pisces? Saturn retrograde in the first house. Kind of rough. It can be rough or it could be like a really important renewal, right? A piece of advice I've definitely given to some Pisces rising friends is that it's important to rest and don't be afraid of sleeping and don't feel ashamed of sleeping. So a really important kind of energy that comes up with Saturn especially um and Saturn moon aspects. We are talking about a new moon opposite Saturn, by the way. Uh is that there often comes up this feeling of should and guilt. Like I should be doing this. I should be able to do this. I should. Release that. Just go take a nap. It's gonna be okay. It'll be all right. Um, yeah, take a deep breath, Pisces. It's okay. The new moon in your seventh house might actually be indicating for you that this is an important time to be relying on your partnerships. And it can also really represent for you a renewal of romance and fun in your life. Yes, I know, but Kaylee, the fifth is associated with romance. You're right. However, in Hellenistic astrology, so is the seventh. Bear with me here. Um, all this talk about Mercury and integrating different things, um, I feel like this is a potent time period for you. Mercury had gone retrograde in your seventh and then went back down into your sixth, and now will eventually come back into your seventh again, bringing into focus the need to kind of reorganize your relationships a little bit. How do those relationships impact your health? And how can, changing a little bit about your routines really reignite things in your relationships again, but also really improve your health? If you have been really wanting to expand your home, let's say you're trying to go through home renovations, for example, it's a really Mars Jupiter thing in the fourth, but you have been too fucking tired. Saturn in the first, or sick, or in other ways, less capable physically for whatever reason, whether it's you're going through, for example, some of my friends are pregnant, or you're experiencing different other health related things, or you're perfectly healthy, but you just need to fucking rest. It's okay. It's gonna get done. We still have lots of time. To lean into this Jupiter in the 4th house energy, but I think the biggest message is just take it easy. So let's see, let's pull a card for you guys. That's too many. I just want one. Also, Peter, as soon as I have your birth data, I'll pull up your chart and do your reading right away. One card for Pisces, please. Whoa. Okay, two cards again. All right, fine. Two. It's gonna be two. Oh, I like that. Okay, hold on. Let me pull this back down. Yeah. Okay, so Pisces, you got the 9 of wands. You got to push through a little bit. And the moon. Actually, hold on. Let me show you that a little bit longer. Marvel in the new deck with me. It's so cool. So the 9 of wands, definitely the need to push through, the need to persevere. Where does strength come from? I recently watched this series. I forget if it's on Netflix or Prime possibly, but anyway, this series that was it's kind of like a D&D themed series. I'm a nerd, okay? I know they're so pretty. And there's this barbarian character, Grog, of course, Grog. Um and he's very stereotypical to start out the series. He's like, "Yep, I'm the barbarian. I'm the tank. You're welcome." Um and he eventually he ends up having to go through this really serious underworld kind of journey. Thank you, Peter. I'm gonna save that. He has to go through this underworld journey where um he actually is cursed. So he takes up this cursed sword and he becomes over reliant on it. Like, yep, this is my sword. It gives me power. I'm really strong when I use it. And he's able to like fell all of his enemies really easily. But the sword drinks blood and compels him to keep killing. I'll bring it back around, Pisces. I know. Just stick with me. He's compelled. And eventually it actually makes him hurt his friends. And he's asked over and over again, "Where does your strength come from? Where does your strength come from?" And he keeps saying, "My muscles. Like my muscles are what make me strong. Obviously, that's that's how I do what I do because I'm strong." And that's not really where his strength comes from. And after he breaks the sword because he doesn't want to hurt his friends anymore, the sword's like, "I'm taking you with me." And all of a sudden, he has no muscles and he's so weak he can't even walk. So all of a sudden, everything that his ego has associated with his strength is totally gone and sapped from him. And he has to find some way to regain his strength. It's it's not his beard, but that's funny. Anyway, he has to find some way to regain his strength. And they're trying all these potions and these different herbal remedies and these spells and these healing talismans, and nothing is working because that's not where his strength comes from. And eventually he does actually figure it out after he passes through this dark night of the soul kind of thing. And he has to face his fear of like, what if I'm never strong again? What if I'm never physically capable again? What if I can't blah 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 blah? And eventually he figures it out. He's like, actually my strength comes from my friends because we're a team and we're awesome. And then magically the curse is lifted and he's strong again. So Pisces, I feel like there's something in that story there for you. What's up, Crypto Tales? Something in that story for you. There's something about you're imagining that your strength comes from something obvious, and that's not actually the case. Okay, so I'm gonna take just a moment here. We're gonna come back. Let's see. Oh, I got some old ones in here. I'm gonna come back to the signs after I pull up Peter's chart. You know what I need? I need a second screen. That's what I need. HG, how's it going? Howdy, gang. HG. Grades in the future. All right. Mm. Oh, that's cool. I love it. I love it when you have a timed chart. 357. Bonus points if you know what song I was just humming. Okay. Hey, Andy in the house. What's up? All right, Peter. Okay. So, Gemini rising. You how Ooh, check that out. You were born on a Venus Cazimi. Ooh. Ooh, I would love to hear your experience of that. That's pretty much on the same degree as my Venus. So that's really cool. That's cool. Oh, that's so cool. I could nerd out about that for a bit, but I'm not gonna. Stay focused, Kaylee. Stay focused. Okay. So, new moon will be happening in your 4th house. Let me just scroll this ahead a couple days so that we actually have the new moon on the screen. And you're actually experiencing a Saturn opposition, and Saturn is opposing your Mars right now. Oh, spicy. Very spicy. Wow. That's exact. Okay. Oh, of course. There's like a million things going on all at once, but I'm going to do my best to condense this a little bit. All right. So, couple of pointers. As this new moon and the Saturn opposition is activating your natal Mars. Well, actually, you have a stellium in the 4th house, so this whole stellium is really lit up. But as this is lighting this up, big themes around family karma are bound to come up, and that's not a word to be afraid of. Please don't be scared that I use that word. It has a big stigma around it now, but yeah, it really just means consequences for previously taken actions. Like you sow what you reap, right? And we can reap really beautiful things, or we can reap tragic things. And oftentimes with things around the home, things come up that we have absolutely no control over whatsoever because it wasn't us that sowed those seeds. Now, what I would consider is um, what kind of new things do you want to take place around your home? Like, are you looking to move right now? Are you looking to renovate right now? Are you looking to change things around about uh, where you live in general? Like, I know we're in fall and we're getting ready to like I don't know, buckle down for winter. I live in Canada, so winter's like right around the corner for me. But for you, you might want to consider while this Saturn opposition is going on and things might be very volatile around your career, or there could just be some really interesting changes happening with how you're publicly known. How are you stabilizing things at home in response? Um, Doing really simple activities like cleaning the gutters, ensuring that the landscaping is on point, um, being very neat and organized and orderly, specifically around how clean your home is at the time at this moment, will really help you to stabilize your home energy while you're experiencing this kind of intense opposition, honestly. Um, because Jupiter's been going through your first house, I would be really curious to hear about how your identity has been shifting a little bit. So the first house is associated with our body and is associated with how we think of ourselves. It is associated with how people view us when they meet us face to face, and how we think of ourselves and our personality. So Jupiter transit through the first house oftentimes does come with like an expansion of that. For some people, not everybody experiences this, but some people, their weight will fluctuate with a Jupiter transit, and I really need to stress not everybody. That's just one example of how your appearance can change during a Jupiter transit. But if you've been like really working on your health and trying to improve just your overall well-being, I'd be really curious about how what's going on at work or in your career or otherwise public life has been kind of impacting that. And then again, right now with this new moon, the solution seems to be like stabilize the home life, especially because that Mars in the fourth house is really being activated by Saturn at the moment. Um, I picture things like ways to use this energy. You could use that Mars energy by, well, I guess it's fall now, so pruning might not be the most appropriate thing, depending on what you want to do with those plants, but literally like weeding the garden. It's silly and it's uh a little bit stereotypical, but sometimes doing the stereotypical thing to work with that energy is what's needed most. Oh, hey, Roman. How's it going? Hi. Yeah. I know. That's beautiful. So anyway, Peter, let me know how that landed for you. Feel free to, again, you can message me on Telegram, or reach out if you want me to dive in a little bit deeper with anything. That's the basic gist of this new moon for you, in that fourth house, because it is lighting up your angular axis. So it's in the upcoming eclipse season actually is going to be also pretty intense. Actually, hold on, let me pull up. just one more thing. So with the eclipses happening, gradually moving into your 4th and 10th house here, there could very well be some really sudden changes and developments both in your public life and at home. So if you were planning to move in like the next year or so, that would be right in line with eclipse season, and honestly would be a really it actually would just be perfect. But if not, then don't worry about that. Oh, yeah. Homie Romy in the house. Hey. All right, so where are we at? We are on s- so silly me closed the moon the moon chart. I gotta open it again. Oh shit. Okay. Aquarius. For you guys, first of all, again, we gotta check in with our aquas. How has Pluto been treating you? I'd be really, really curious to hear from Aquarius risings in particular. Um, yeah, how has the initial ingress into of Pluto into your sign been treating you? By the time this new moon comes out Monday, Pluto will have retreated back into Capricorn for the last time in our lifetimes. So take a moment to like breathe a sigh of relief, I guess, before he comes back for his 20-year sojourn through your first house. Honestly, speaking as a Capricorn rising, you can do it. You'll be fine. It's a 20-year long process, so it's not like there's gonna be, a lot of chaos right away or anything like that, but maybe there has been, so let me know. Please reach out. I love hearing stories from you guys. It feeds my soul. Okay, so for the Aquariuses out there, new moon is happening in your 8th house. So the 8th house, speaking of topics of karma, is directly related to the debts that we owe others and that others are owing to us, debts that are owed to us. So, how this plays into this lovely square, um, if you have been really wanting to expand in your creative life, and you've been held back in some way by, maybe there's some serious skills that you've needed to develop in order to expand the things in your creativity that you want to expand on. Since the second house is more than money, it's about the things that we cultivate over time. This new moon kind of offers an interesting kind of perspective. It's like, okay, we want to get creative, we want to really expand here, but there's something that is underdeveloped and we need to work on more. Maybe there is some kind of external motivation that you find that can kind of help boost your determination to keep developing those skills. Of course, this could play out in a monetary way as well, but let's start with the more creative way first. Let's say, um, actually, so this is a scenario that just popped to mind, so it's okay if this doesn't actually happen. It's just a possible example, especially since we're talking about Mercury and the different manifestations of Mercury. Perhaps, hello, Mercury in the 7th house, there is a friend or someone that you meet that actually decides to teach you something. This could very well be a debt that they owe to you. Take them up on the offer, right? Be really aware and conscious of some of the stranger or even challenging individuals that cross your path at this time, because you never know, there might be something that they have to teach you. We are talking about karmic debts. Um, that is like some kind of a key to helping you unlock the mystery of the square that's been going on in your fifth and second. So that's one way that you could see this playing out. Monetarily wise, really this makes me think of um perhaps things are a little bit squeezed, you know? Saturn in the second house can definitely feel like what's coming in isn't as much as it should be. There's that wonderful word should again. And what's going out could kind of feel like maybe it's bleeding out of you, or you have to make these expenses, or there are debts that you have to pay. And oftentimes that can feel like it sucks the creative juice out of you. Or you can take that and use that necessity as a way to get more creative, right? That's the other way that the Jupiter square could play out. It really is with Saturn an either or situation. It's like a yes and, but also all at the same time. It's more like you're gonna feel squeezed and then you're gonna find a way to open up and expand. Think of it this way, in order to create something really beautiful, sometimes having a couple of really strict rules that you decide to follow ends up opening up your creativity in so many more different ways. So just think of it like that. Think of it like that. All right, let's pull up a couple cards. Oh, you guys. All right, couple cards for Aquarius. The Queen of Wands. Whoops. The Queen of Wands. What a fun card. Okay. Queen of Wands definitely wants you to get more creative. I wonder actually, Aquarius, how do you feel about your sensual nature? Is this something that is really taboo to you? Are you able to tap into it, or is it yeah, are you able to tap into it and feel into the confidence that that can help bring? And I don't mean like I know it's a really cool deck. I like it a lot. Uh, it doesn't mean that you have to like exploit your sexual self. That's not what I'm talking about. But that creative flow that comes from the sensual side, feel into it. Um, really take those restrictions that you've been feeling and find creative ways to kind of weave through and with them as best as you can. Because here's the thing about the queens, the structure comes from the masculine, and the feminine fills it up with beauty. How's that saying go? Give a woman a house and she'll give you a home. Think about it like that. Okay. You have a ton of feminine creative energy right now flowing, and it's just a matter of allowing it to come out and putting it on something or in something or around you in some way. Um, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, just gonna double check I didn't miss any notifications on my phone. No, okay, good. Good, good, good. Actually, hold on. I don't have my email open. I should open up that. Okay, perfect. All right. Do, 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 do. Capricorn. Capricorn, new moon in the ninth house. So, how you doing, Capricorn? Pluto's back. um, I don't feel like this last little dip of Pluto will be all that massive or transformative. I actually feel like for most of you, it's going to be like, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." But like, there's a light. There's not necessarily a lightness to it, but we're seeing the other side of Pluto. It's like he's finishing up, cleaning out, doing the last little bit of purging, which, that can be not so fun. But if you have any like last little things that you've been holding on to that it's like time to get rid of, do it before or during this new moon. Like, why not? And then with the new moon being in your ninth house, what kind of intentions do you want to set around putting out works to the public? And perhaps actually, is there some particular spiritual practice that you want to take up? Um, do it. Do it. Definitely do it, especially if it relates to Mercury in some way. Okay. So for me, for example, I've been reading this book about Mercury and it's super fucking fascinating. And he actually, Gary Caton goes and gives a few suggestions of like how you could potentially work with the Mercury retrograde energy um, in a more like m- mythically focused feminine kind of way. I think doing some kind of practice like what he's suggesting would be really, really helpful. Also, if it is something that you do over and over and over again, as is kind of the nature of Virgo, do it. Um, this I feel like is kind of the key to helping you unlock this square energy right now. So, Jupiter in the sixth house, we've been trying to improve health, right? Um, we've been working to improve some daily habits. We've been trying to create a better environment for ourselves for our everyday work, generally speaking. And of course, the Saturn in the third, maybe there are environmental factors that are holding you back. You actually have to clean up your literal physical environment in order to improve your health. This is true. There might be, you might have needed to really work on. Uh, I'm actually getting tongue tied now, which is hilarious. The third house is communication. Maybe you've been struggling a little bit with getting different words out or speaking your mind, and maybe the throat chakra is having a little bit of trouble. And if that's the case, well, okay, go into your spiritual practices a little bit. You know, sometimes when there's an issue on the physical, you can go and pull the weeds all day long, but until you address it on the spiritual, that's you're not really gonna you're gonna keep experiencing the same problem over and over and over again. So that's kind of where this key is coming in. I hope that makes sense. Let's pull a card or two for Capricorn. That's so interesting you mentioned that, Ruma. And I think really honestly a big part of reading the tarot is diving into the symbolism. And clearly the symbolism was speaking to you. So, all right. A card or two for Cap. Okay, that's fun. So we have the Empress. Gorgeous. And also the Queen of Pentacles came out. Ba da ba 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 ba. I don't know what that was. Okay, so the Empress and the Queen of Pentacles. Again, super feminine energy coming out. Wow. So the Empress and the Queen of Pentacles. I wasn't anticipating either of those, so that's fun. I really feel like the Queen of Pentacles is a fairly Capricornian energy. Both of these cards are actually speaking to like fertility and general well-being and having both like a long-term plan and a structure in mind while feeling deep into the feminine energies. I kind of feel like for you guys Capricorn, if you really dive into a spiritual practice, there is how do I describe this? It's like there is this like undercurrent, this undertow of like vitality and wellness and well-being that's just under the surface. But if you dive into the spiritual practices, it's just waiting to like bloom forth. That is like the overwhelming energy that I get from these two cards in particular right now. Also, I just noticed there's a little butterfly. That's really pretty. Okay, I feel like that actually ties into the Pluto a little bit. Like I was saying, there's like this like little bit of a cleanup. The last little bits of cleaning up need to happen. Um, and this is somehow tied into the spiritual practices that you're wanting to establish. And this in turn is going to help with the overall health and well-being and overall vitality of your body and your spirit. So that's really cool. I like that. I really feel like this is going to be a fertile period in general. So roll with it for sure. Ooh. It's almost like there is something like something creative, and that creativity is kind of like helping you lean into a spiritual practice, and it can kind of be a little bit of both. Anyway, I'm just repeating myself, so I'm going to move on. Sagittarius. Oh, Sag. Oh my. Okay, so um I don't know how many of you have seen it, but I just did a little bit of a live stream. I think it was like maybe 2 hours, an hour or 2 hours long, specifically about Pavel Durov, the Telegram CEO, who was arrested and then charged in France for a whole bunch of shit. He's essentially being held responsible for criminal activities that take place on his encrypted app, Telegram. And essentially, he's getting in trouble for providing an encrypted app to people. Um, it's wild, but anyway, he's a Sagittarius rising. He's a Sagittarius rising. So, um, yeah, and then I've noticed in a totally different person that also has Sag rising that they're experiencing a similar kind of echo. So let's talk about it. A similar kind of echo, hey? All right, so new moon in the 10th house. New moon in the 10th house. Mercury has just finished up the retrograde, crossing from the 10th back into the ninth. Turn direct. It's not going back this way. We have Saturn in the 4th house and Jupiter in the 7th. So the your angular houses are lit up like a Christmas tree right now. The Mercury retrograde going from the 10th back into the ninth for some of you have brought in some interesting questions around legal issues. So, Jupiter in the 7th, how do we want to expand our relationships? For some of you, this is quite literally um, whoever you're in partnership with, whether it's a business partnership or whether it's like a romantic thing, they're doing really well in some way. For some of you, this can be you're really just trying to have a good time, right? The seventh house in traditional Hellenistic astrology is associated with like romance and fun and pleasure and actually sex. So again, but Kaylee, the fifth house is sex. In modern astrology, yes. I explained this actually not terribly long ago, but the seventh house is the symbolic representation of where the sun plunges down into the womb of the earth. It is literally symbolizing sex. Okay. The meeting of masculine and feminine. That is that is the seventh house. So that's why. Point in case, done, closed. So anyway, Jupiter in seventh, we want to expand in that way. Um, however, there is something keeping you at home. There's some bigger responsibility, there's some, legal thing, um there's something that is kind of outside of your control that has caused you to be stuck. Some people can feel like they're a prisoner. Some people, it's not as, it's not as intense of a feeling, but for a lot of you, certainly. I mean, that might not be fully true. It just depends on your perspective. And I mean, for Sagittarius rising, you want to go out and adventure. You want to see the lay of the land and leave at a moment's notice in a spontaneous way. But Saturn in the fourth says that you can't right now. And that, even though it's like, so in Pavel Durov's case, he can't leave France, even though he has citizenship in 5 other different countries. He can't leave France, and he has to check in with the police station every 2 weeks, I think it is. Insane, but whatever. Um, so he's not in jail, but he can't leave the country. So in a way, he still is sort of imprisoned. So for someone that has like a jet and citizenship in a whole bunch of different places, that can feel like complete imprisonment. Um, for someone that like, you know, they live a totally different life. They don't have a private jet, but but their ability to be mobile has been taken away for whatever reason. That can feel like imprisonment, even though they might still be able to walk everywhere. You're not really imprisoned. You're just it's a different your experience has been shrunk in some way. So anyway, the new moon in the 10th house, there's there is some kind of like a renewal or a new process starting in how you're seen in the world and or with what you're good at. So 10th house can be either. Um, it might it might be that there's like a reboot happening in your career because of some kind of legal trouble that you've come into or some kind of legal situation has landed in your lap, and that is kind of leading you to totally change up how your career is going at the moment. You might just be taking on something temporarily. I mean, we are talking about Mercury, right? Mercury can switch and change quite a bit. Um, or there might just be like you're being seen in a totally different way. Right? Totally bonkers. Totally bonkers. So I think the best way for Sagittarius for you to use this energy is to kind of focus on like, all right, well, what am I really good at? And what can I really like, what can I what can I do to strengthen those skills? And what truth needs to come out perhaps? Ace of Swords. So Sagittarius, oh, look at that, the hangman underneath. By the way, I've noticed poppies in a lot of these cards. Okay. So you need to speak out about something. We need to be honest and truthful, and there's something about what you're experiencing right now that there might be some kind of stigma or altered perception that you need to kind of work through and speak out about anyway. Um, the hangman underneath is really telling me to challenge your own perception, especially if you are feeling trapped or cornered or caged in some way. You're really not. Um, and furthermore, there's something in this experience that's really important for you. Um, whether it's a learning opportunity, whether it's you have the opportunities to seriously challenge some injustice, or whether it's like, yeah, I think those are the two really big ones. You have some opportunity to challenge some serious injustice. And for some of you, the new moon is going to be like, okay, here is the game plan. We're laying down the game plan of how we're going to go about this and what we're going to bring to the public. Because the public needs to see something. We need to see, we need to see something. So that's what I see for you guys. Scorpio. I feel like we're making decent time, guys. We're doing all right. Okay. Hot tip, you gotta hit the button. Okay. So Scorpio. For you guys, new moon is happening in your 11th house. This is the house of our wider network connections. This has to do with the people that we meet along the way that help us to achieve our goals. So the 11th house can be like our social media networks. It can be powerful people that we meet in different organizations. It can be a lot of different stuff like that. For you guys, this new moon is plugging into this Jupiter Saturn square between the 5th and the 8th. So with Jupiter transiting through the 8th, it can feel like you are being asked to pay up a lot of different debts. And maybe there have been a few surprise ones that have come your way that you weren't really fully expecting. And then bam, surprise. Um, Good or bad. It can be either, obviously. The square to Saturn, I mean, Saturn in the 5th house is asking you to be, I mean, for some people, Saturn transiting the 5th can be like, all right, there is no joy in the world. It can be a very melancholic transit. So, are you going to be depressed and sad and emo for 2.5 years? No, I hope not. That would be terrible. Don't do that to yourself, Scorpio. Um, Make art out of it instead. I feel like I'm talking to Davin. Davin, make art. I think that's what Davin would say. Don't cry, make art. I don't know. He might watch this later. He might be watching now. I don't know. Anyway. Mm. The new moon in the 11th. Since we just had the Mercury retrograde there, I'm really curious about like if you had any experiences lately with any of your friends in your wider network that all of a sudden maybe they became a really difficult person to deal with, or you came across someone that it didn't seem like they were going to help you, even though like maybe they should have, or something like that. It's like the trickster archetype was alive and well in your 11th and your 10th house for a little for a hot minute, all right? So, was there somebody that you met that kind of fits that bill, you know? They were really challenging, they were really difficult to deal with, but it kinda it's quite possible maybe it was revealed at some point during the retrograde period around the Cazimi or as Mercury became visible that, "Oh, this person actually is not as challenging as I first perceived them to be." Maybe it's time to like s oh, how do I put this? Maybe it's time to consider some of those challenges as like gifts. Again, there's kind of this theme coming up of like needing to change perspectives a little bit. Again, these double-bodied signs are very much about change. So there's probably some kind of perspective or just way that you were looking at a situation, especially as it pertained to some kind of social network that you were a part of. Some kind of situation came up that was really terrible and annoying, um, and perhaps really triggered a lot of the melancholic Saturn stuff. But there was a really important and deep lesson there, something to be learned, something to take away from the situation. And with this new moon in the 11th, maybe it's time to like turn over a new leaf, you know? That's what I'm feeling for that. So what cards do we have for Virgo? This deck is just the tiniest bit kind of big for my hands. Oh, interesting. The moon again. The moon kind of popped out and hinted at coming out earlier in one of the other signs as well, but that Pisces energy is strong. This like fear of the dark and fear of unknown is really strong too. And we also have the Ace of Wands underneath. How do your own thought processes get in the way? Do you have a habit of like ruminating or going over things in your head over and over again and overthinking things? Do you have a habit of seeing the immediate, oh wow, do you have a habit of seeing something in like a really dark light first before looking at the positive possibilities? Hmm. Are you sleeping okay? Do you need more sleep? How are you, Scorpio? You should check in with us. Not everything has to be like hidden and secretive, and that's hilarious. I swear, I promise I'm not just talking to the stereotypes. It's because we pulled the moon, okay? Not everything has to be secretive and dark and hidden, you know. Uh and to me, the moon coming out and then the ace of wands being underneath is telling me that like there's definitely a perception shift that is needed, and your initial perception of different scenarios, especially as it has to do with your networks and your friends at this time, um, your initial perception is probably colored by something that might not be reality. Not all of your thoughts are true. Not all of your feelings are even true. Sometimes your feelings are triggered by different events or thoughts or past traumas, and they don't reflect the reality that's right in front of you. So be mindful of that. And I really feel like there is a really good, like channel of energy that is waiting to open up, but it's like you need to kind of get out of the sleepy, foggy veil that's kind of in front of you right now. Does that make sense, Scorpio? I hope it does. Okay. Libra. So as we get to Libra, we will now be looking at the signs where the light is dominant. What does Chance call this half of the zodiac? The good guys? Fucking Chance. Cracks me up. All right. I feel like I need to take a little stretch break. My back. Take a little stretch break with me. Oh, while you're hanging out, be sure to hit the like. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Hmm. I know this looks weird, but I'm actually like stretching my nerves a little bit. Stretching does sound good. I need to stretch my legs. Just give me a sec, guys. Just a little hang. That was nice. Okay, good to go. Yeah. All right. Libra. So for Libra, the new moon falls in your 12th house. Also, Venus is home now. I bet that feels really nice. Venus changing dignity from Virgo into Libra is pretty big deal. Um, she goes from a condition, especially for you guys if you're a Libra rising, she goes from a condition of being um, debilitated. You know, she's opposite of the temple that where she's exalted. It's not the easiest time to have Venus going through Libra, and then all of a sudden she goes from this condition of being debilitated into a temple where she owns. All of a sudden she's home. So it's like going on a really long journey where um there's lots of bugs and like you go camping and there's a billion mosquitoes and you're not comfortable and you just want to have a nice time, but there's too many things to do. And especially that journey through the 12th house, there's too many things to do, and you're losing things left, right, and center, and you can't find this or that. These things that would help you feel comfortable, they're just fucking gone. And then you come home, it's like, "Oh, I can do my own laundry. I can just relax in my pajamas and nobody cares." But it's Libra, so they're really nice pajamas. They're like silk, like I got all my creams, I have my salves that I can put on my mosquito bites, that kind of thing. Um, so that's really nice. Venus transiting through the first house, I really feel like, even though in this image right here, we got like kind of a semi-demonic looking 666, ooh, scary. Uh, ignore that. I swear it's not that bad. Um, yeah. Although I am really curious, Libra, because we've had the eclipses in your first and seventh house. How are you doing? Um, The eclipses happening on those angular houses can sometimes be a pretty dramatic change. For some people, you can go through like really intense changes in a really short amount of time around like who you are, what you think you are, what you're like, what you identify with, or who you identify with, and the relationships in your lives can go through really sudden and dramatic changes. So I'd be really curious to hear from Libra rising and Aries rising, like how is that shifting for you as the eclipses are moving through that axis? Anyway, how this new moon is plugging into the square, well, as you're working to unify and expand in your spiritual life, that's the ninth house, there is things in either your health or in your daily habits that almost need more attention. Um, Saturn going through the sixth house is definitely not the easiest transit. I will admit it's not the nicest. It's not the easiest. It can be difficult. The sixth house is known as the house of misfortune. So if you were experiencing particular like a really difficult time, that's why. That's why. Saturn is asking you to pay attention to your health and really like buckle down when it comes to taking care of yourself. And just as I was kind of talking about this square from Capricorn's perspective, it's a little bit flipped for you. You know, you want to expand spiritually. You want to maybe put out some works of publication or maybe you start teaching or do something very Jupiterian in the ninth that's fairly public, but there's health concerns. There's things um not necessarily at home, but uh you just there's other business to take care of that has to be taken care of first, right? The new moon in the 12th. So since the 12th house has to do with isolation. It can do with loss. It can do with it can be a really spiritual house too. It can be all about meditation and going on um both of these houses can be talking about wanting to go on like a spiritual journey, like a pilgrimage. That's the word I'm looking for. A pilgrimage. But again, there's something that you need to take care of first. So with the new moon in the 12th house, you could use this as a time to kind of like set an intention about what kinds of spiritual practices you're doing. One of the downfalls of Jupiter in Gemini can be like you're trying to do too many things all at the same time. So maybe with this new moon in the 12th, what you could do is simplify things. And that's kind of Saturn's MO as well as minimalism and simplification. What you could do is simplify things and maybe take it down to just one or two things that you're doing that you're practicing in a Virgoan fashion, which means over and over and over and over and over again. So, for example, short meditations. I keep going back to meditation, but that's it's the example that seems to be working. Short meditations, for example, but actually being able to still your mind, um, is one thing. Sticking with the body is another. Every time you feel your mind like going off into a billion different directions, you just have to redirect it. There's something about kind of just taking a little bit of time to yourself and allowing for a little bit of isolation is not a bad thing while the sun is going through your 12th house. I think that this would be a good time to like let yourself rest. Oftentimes I feel like the sun going through the 12th house is definitely like a all right, it's time it's it's time to like go into dreamland a little bit. The other thing about Venus on the south node right now, so right around the new moon, Venus will be crossing over the south node. In Hellenistic astrology, the south node is about a lowering of energy. So while the nodes have been flipped like this, you might have wanted to increase reliance or increase attention on a partnership and kind of um decrease some of your attention paid to yourself. And Venus going over the south node is going to just double down on that a little bit. And again, it's definitely not a bad thing. Um And I wouldn't even say that you need to balance it out by doing the opposite either. I think that it is actually perfectly okay if you need to lean on a partner a little bit at this time. Like that's okay. There's no shame in that. Oh, hey, happy Freya's Day. Happy Freya's Day. Okay, Libra. I'm gonna move you. You're gonna go over here. All right. s- just kept getting the image in my head of a card catching on fire. So let's just prevent that entirely by moving the fucking flame. Okay. Mercury Mel in the house. All right, so Libra. Oh, have any of you watched a movie called Rebel Moon? That's allowed. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna tell that story right now. I'm gonna hold out. It's more about the Princess of Cups than the Queen of Cups anyway. But anyway, Libra, you got the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups. What a beautiful card. To me, the Queen of Cups is saying that you actually have an overabundance of spiritual and emotional energy right now. So much so that your cup is full. I really feel like that's a really beautiful thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Your cup is full. This deck is neat. It looks like the cup has wings. I can't tell if that's another crow in the cup or not. Kind of the funny thing about this art is like there's so much room for interpretation. Man, there's so much going on in this card. All right, so Libra. You know how I was saying like it's okay if you need to lean on somebody else a little bit, like that's not the end of the world. Um I feel like sometimes Libra can feel like they have to do everything themselves in order for it to go how they want it to go. It's okay to allow some things to be done by somebody else and let go of the need for it to be perfect. I really feel like this is part of the Venus crossing over the South Node thing for you guys in particular, is like you're at home now, so you are responsible for all of the things. That's the symbolism of a planet being in its own domicile. And at the same time, um, we still have the North Node in your seventh house. So it's like you are at home, but also it's okay to let things slip just a little bit in order to help yourself recharge. Use this new moon in the 12th house to take a bit of time to really just I don't know, maybe you need a bath, like a nice Epsom salt bath with like pamper yourself. Venus is home, pamper yourself. Nice Epsom salt bath. Okay, first you might have to clean the tub and then a nice Epsom salt bath with some essential oils and like really just pour some of that energy back into yourself for a little bit. It's okay if the kitchen's a mess, it's like it will get cleaned eventually. You might have to lay down the law, we might have to crack a couple whips, but for now, focus on the self for just a little bit. L- Let yourself relax into the tub. Like maybe I need a bath. That's why this is coming up, but um you never know what kind of like creative and intuitive thoughts and images might come up when you let yourself disconnect like that. Um, they say that, I mean, water is such an an amazingly conductive substance. You never know. You never know. The new moon, like you could have an increased dream experience. Um, You might be getting some interesting psychic hits, some interesting intuitive hits, but how are you ever going to receive it if you don't allow yourself to? So take a bit of time, go have a bath, chill out a little bit, don't be so busy, just kind of chill for a bit and allow those experiences to come because there might be some symbols, there might be some messages that are like trying to come through, but they can't until you like woosah a little bit. That's Libra. Virgo. I feel like I look extra tired right now. I am. I need a longer nap. So I apologize. But I'm here and I'm stoked. All right, Virgo. So, Virgo, now that the new moon is in your first house, oh, gotta change my banner. Hold it. Wait a minute. There we go. Okay, Virgo, new moon in the first house. How are you guys coping with Saturn in the seventh, by the way? The Saturn Jupiter square in the angular houses can be a pretty intense experience. So I'm really curious, like, how are you coping with Saturn in the seventh? Are you experiencing more Saturnian themes with the god of division and oppositions in your seventh house? Or are you witnessing partners go through really intense, melancholic, sad, um, difficult experiences? Are you able to be there for others? Are you kind of acting like the psychopomp yourself, being ruled by Mercury and kind of helping some certain people go through very Saturnian and uh, just different endings. That could definitely be a thing that's coming up for some of you. Um, with Jupiter in the 10th house, there has been this overwhelming theme of like wanting to expand and unify into your career or expand with what you've been known for. There's definitely been like a desire for, well, for some of you anyway, there's been a desire to like seek justice or seek the attentions of important people. You might have even just been wanting to like I wouldn't say take on more responsibility at work. That's not quite the right keywords, but there's been like this theme for Virgo rising of like just how you're known and how your career is going through some monumental shifts. Like the structure is getting overhauled in some way. And that's actually the influence of Jupiter, believe it or not. Um, but there have been some really, not so easy experiences with partnerships coming up that has maybe not gotten in the way, but definitely diverted your attention a little bit. Saturn in the seventh house for some people can be about like getting really serious with their partnerships. And for some people, it can even be like really binding contracts taking place. And for others, it can be the complete severance of different contracts, of different partnerships. Um, and again, Saturn being the planet that is associated with oppositions, it is both. It is both. So with the new moon in your first of all, this is a renewal of you, right? Um, Similar to what I was saying to Libra about needing to pamper yourself, about needing to really take care of the self. Since the first house is literally your body, and you had this really interesting Mercury retrograde happen not that long ago, there could very well be some images that have come up maybe in the dream space or different animals or plants that have crossed your path lately that they offer some symbol for you to sit with. And I actually want to encourage you, Virgo, to not completely dissect this symbol right away. This is something that you can maybe practice. Sometimes, and this might be difficult for a Mercury ruled sign, but play with me for a second. Sometimes there's something that a symbol wants to say to you that you can't get from that symbol if you dissect it. Sometimes you need to sit with it and allow it to speak by just letting it be itself for a bit. I'm pulling that actually from a James Hillman essay, uh, about snakes. There can be, like, this overwhelming desire to pull up, like, different dream journals and Jungian analysis sites and, like, look at what a symbol might mean, like pelican, for example, or, a crow or, like, another bird or whatever, or a specific kind of flower or a kind of tree. Like, what is this in Celtic mythology? What is this in when it comes up in this context? Um, there can be different myths associated with it that we might want to look at. But maybe instead of looking at what all of these other different sources are saying about this particular symbol or this particular scenario or whatever, sit with it for a little bit without any of those outside influences and just ask it what it has to say to you. Ask it what it wants to tell you. Try that first before dissecting it. Try that. Just just work with that. Try that first. Aw, Vince. Mercury, Mel, you must be a little bit behind the stream. That's funny. Emo dog. Oh, okay. Virgo. So your cards came out right away in contrast with a few other signs. That's fun. The Wheel of Fortune and also underneath death. Isn't that wild? We've got the Wheel of Fortune symbolizing Jupiter, and then death, which, Saturn in the seventh, that's death. I kind of want to take my advice and not give you meanings. I'm not gonna do that though. So the Wheel of Fortune tells us that there are fated events that are outside of our control. Things are going to happen that you do not have the ability to influence in your physical body that are in alignment with divine will that we have no way of knowing the entire plan around them happening. There are karmas, there are debts, there are a multitude of different things, um, friendships, contracts, and relationships, um, and accidents, and nice things too, right? Uh, Beautiful moments and positive relationships and d- every scenario in life could potentially be fated. The Wheel of Fortune tells me that there is a lot of that going on around you right now. Um, I do believe in determinism and free will, both. I think that things like astrology actually show us in a very concrete way that there are events that are fated that you have no control over. Some of them have to do with people transitioning. Some of them have to do with you transforming. Um, I think that You have an opportunity. I've got chills up my whole fucking body. I think that you have an opportunity to act as an ambassador for certain people. I think that you have been put into certain people's lives for a very specific reason. And I don't think that any of that is an accident. I think that you are a gift to those people. I think that there is something really beautiful about like, oh my god, look at the goosebumps. I think there's something really beautiful about being in someone's life even for a short amount of time. Um, sometimes you'll go through a relationship, romantic or whatever, and it's like, "Oh man, that was a waste of time at the end if it doesn't work out." But no, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. You impacted that person and they impacted you, whether it was good or bad, it really doesn't matter. Each of you came away from the experience transformed and changed. And um I think that this new moon is an opportunity for you to just kind of absorb and sit with those symbols and just be grateful for those experiences. Just be grateful for those experiences. We don't get to fully understand the meaning of all of them, you know? Uh, and I think we just have to, come to terms with it and just we have to be okay with it. We don't get to know all of the outcomes. Hey, maybe you're not behind. Okay, Leo. Leo. Oh, hey, Ariel. Oh, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh, snap. Okay. It hasn't come through on my end yet. Do you want to do a tarot or an astrology? I'll just kind of get it ready. Might just be a little bit delayed. Oh, no, there it is. Oh, I see it. Oh, girl. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I got you. I got you. Okay. Before I do Leo, we're doing Ariel. I got you. Edit. These are fun. Okay. Right. Right, right, right. Do you want me to hide your birth data on the screen? I can put it up as anonymous info. I have that magic. I think I might just do that anyway. Let the world see it all. Hey, Stacy. I know, 2 hours. It's marathon tonight, I guess. That's how it's gonna go. Um, yes, I'm still going through the signs. We're at Leo, but as people are putting in requests for live reading, I'm reading those as we go. So it's gonna be a little bit jumbled up for the recording, but meh. You guys take top priority anyway. All right. Girl was like, "You shut up." And it was like, "Okay, I guess that's what's happening now." Okay. Ariel. Ah, yes. The high priestess goddess herself. Ooh. Okay. Oh man, I forgot how fun your chart is. Oh, all the Capricorn. All the Capricorn. That's good stuff. Okay. Okay. Let me pull this forward to the new moon. Just a couple days. One more. Right there. Boom. Oh, it's right on top of your Jupiter. Dude, check that out. Quite literally. The new moon is on 11 degrees. Jupiter is at 11 degrees. Ooh. Meanwhile, you're going through a nodal square. Uranus is squaring your sun and Mercury. I just gotta like absorb it for a second before before I start talking. Oh man. Okay, so there's yeah, no doubt. Okay, so in the comments, Ariel writes, definitely feel a pull to be creative and have so many avenues I could take. Want to do all the things and don't want to screw up. Girl, yeah, I don't think it's possible to screw up. I think you're fine. But I'll humor you. Let's quickly run through a little bit of this. Okay. Oh. New moon conjunct Jupiter. Fuck, dude. Where do you even start with this? Let's start with this. Um, yeah, okay. So the biggest thing about this new moon in particular right now is it is activating the natal promise of your Jupiter. So let's look at just your Jupiter for a second. Let's kind of clean up all those lines, take out all the chaos, and just focus on Jupiter for a quick second. All right. A hot minute, you could say. Jupiter in your chart being retrograde and being in Virgo can represent a well, it rules your ninth house of Pisces and it rules your sixth house of Sagittarius. Being that it rules the ninth house in particular, because you would have an easier time accessing the ninth house, your spiritual practices, religion, and that sort of thing. Let's talk about it in that context first. So when we have a pretty exact transit like this, and it's right on top of a natal planet or opposing a natal planet, just for the rest of you watching, um, it's important to analyze the planet by itself first, right? So Jupiter in Virgo in the third house, I could see you really wanting to learn all the things. I completely understand that. So Jupiter is considered so there's a scary word that I'm gonna drop. Don't be afraid of the word. Okay. Don't the word is debilitated. It's considered debilitated. Or sorry, not to, it's not, it's in exile. Now, when a planet is in exile, it means that you need to do things in a countercultural way, especially a retrograde planet. So if you think about whether it's moving forward or whether it's moving backwards, when the planets are moving forward, it's like they are in agreement with the quote unquote natural or normal state of things. And when they're in retrograde, they're going against the grain, right? So they're going against the grain, and that's weird. So it's kind of like a double whammy of I'm going to do things in a very different way. Being that it rules your ninth house, this has to do with your spiritual practices and your beliefs. Well, girl, you're a little weird. That's not a bad thing. The new moon being right on top of your Jupiter is really activating some of this. So the third and ninth house axis can do with the things that we're learning. It can do with higher education. It can do with our spiritual practices. It can do with writing, um, our speech, how we communicate with the outside world and the publications that we want to put out. So having the new moon right on top of your Jupiter is kind of like highlighting it's like planting a seed and also highlighting some of the projects that you might have had going on in the past or currently have going on right now. Um, are you still doing your podcast? How's that going? Are you still talking about all of the weird stuff that you like to talk about? Um, or has that kind of like fallen by the wayside? Is that one of the creative things that you want to get back into or not? These are questions that I have, and I have the chat covered up right now so that I don't get distracted. But I'll open it. I'll open it and look at your answers in a second here. So that's kind of like the big thing about the new moon being right on top of Jupiter is like, all right, are you going to reignite your ninth house interests or not? Now, with Jupiter ruling the sixth house, this kind of tells me like it's the new moon, whatever intentions you're planting with the new moon cycle, you're going to need to buckle down and really work hard as fuck for it. Whatever it is that you choose, whatever path you end up picking. Um, I totally understand this feeling like I'm gonna screw it up. Well, yeah, you have a retrograde planet that's being activated by the new moon that's in exile. That makes perfect sense to me. Um, because Jupiter wants to like unify things and see the bigger picture, but he's in a sign ruled by Mercury. Mercury wants to divide things. They're diametrically opposed. So there could very well be this sense of like, I am not doing this right. Well, you just have to do it in a different way. You have to do it in a way that is really unconventional. Um, the other big things that are popping out. So the eclipses will have been going through your angular houses here, the 4th and 10th house, and they're shifting gradually into the 3rd and ninth house. So I don't know, it's been a little while since I think we've talked. I don't remember if you guys have moved or not. I know you were looking to try and stabilize both work and home, and that makes perfect sense with the eclipses going through your 4th and 10th house. But now that they're slowly beginning to shift, it's like the focus, it's like the pressure is kind of relieved a little bit as the eclipses change signs. So the other really big thing that's kind of playing out since the new moon is playing into the square of these two planets of Jupiter and Saturn squaring, Jupiter in the 12th house, well, again, we kind of want to like spend a bit of time by ourselves. We want to expand our spiritual practices, and both of these houses have to do with spiritual practices just in a different kind of way. The ninth has to do with the structured practices that we take on or create or embody or identify with, And the 4th house has way more to do with the dream realm and the subconscious and, losing things and that becoming a spiritual experience. So, with Saturn transiting through the ninth, I kinda think that, there might be there might you might feel like there's some kinda, like, blockages or, it might actually be, like, a self-limiting belief that's coming up that's stopping you from, going as big with the podcast that you want or with whatever creative endeavor you're thinking of trying to do. But especially if it happens to be, more public facing, that would make sense. But, Saturn at the end of the day is about needing to push through and stay determined and disciplined with something, even when it's hard, and especially when it's hard. And I guess that's just a little bit of a double whammy of, like, the lord of your 6th house being activated. The 6th house, a way you can think of it is, like, it is the tasks that we do that we're going to bleed for. It's the joy of Mars. So so, um, hell yeah, girl, you got it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, yeah, you did move. Yes, yes, yes. Can't be new, can't be yup, mhm. No, 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 yeah, it's 'cause she's, like, super Cancer. Yeah. You're funny, you're funny. Yeah, you're so Cancer, you confused me. You broke my astrology. I'm not mad, that's okay. Um, yeah, I mean, okay, so here's the thing. While we're while we're experiencing Jupiter transiting through Gemini, regardless of what house it's falling into, I think it's natural for us to want to take up learning all of the fucking things. That is a very Gemini thing. And then you having Jupiter in a Mercury ruled house, again, there's this idea of like wanting to learn in a house that's about well, it's about your environment, but it can also be about some of the skills you have, some of the tools you have at your disposal, at least in modern astrology. And it can be about wanting to learn all of the things again. I think that it might be really helpful to narrow it down and focus on just one at a time. And here's here's what I would say is like that underlying belief that I'm going to fuck it up is actually what might be stopping you from pursuing one thing and specializing in that thing. It can be like almost like you could be afraid of the success that you could have if you really commit to that thing. Does that make sense? So, 'cause it's really easy to be like, "Okay, um, I I'm just going to try something new." Okay, okay, that's cool. You can try something new. But then if you're always just trying new things, you're not giving yourself a chance to prove that you can be really, really good at that one thing that you're doing, especially if it's fun. But it's really easy to just like justify it as like, I'm just trying a new thing. I'm just gonna try something new. See, I'm trying new things. That's why I suck. Well, yeah, you're right. What happens if you stay dedicated to like one thing for a little bit? What if you got good at it? What would happen? That could be scary because then it's like, well, yeah, and then but I think the thought process for some of us is like, okay, well, what if I practice that one thing over and over and over and over and over again and I still suck? Does that mean that I suck? You know? Um, maybe. Maybe it does. Or maybe you just need more practice. So anyway, just sit with that. Sit with that for a little bit. Try just one thing. Oh, and I think that's fair. And I don't think that like you need to stick with one thing forever, right? I don't think you need to stick with one thing forever. But the the whole like Virgo thing is practicing something over and over and over again. And once you get kind of good at it and you start getting into flow with it, I think that's like a really good point to decide whether you want to stick with it or not. Once you kind of start to get into flow with it, because then you'll really know. If you can never get to that point of flow, well then it's not your thing. Um and mind you, I'm going off of no context here. Zero context. What do you want to try? Yeah. Um what else could new moon in the third house be talking to? Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing right now is just play with the idea of practicing one thing over and over and over again. Being true to the Virgo archetype for a little bit and kind of go from there. Yo, we made it to the sign of the king. Oh, I did it again. I closed the chart with the moon in it. Oh no, no, it didn't. We're good. It's right here. Bam. Oh yeah, 100%. And good timing because now I'm on Leo. What if you got good at loving yourself, even if you sucked? Like, what if you fuck it up? So what? So what? And, and okay, Leo. All right, Leo. So for you guys, new moon is happening in the second. The second is primarily things that you cultivate over time. How appropriate to have Virgo in the second house, a sign that is very much about cultivation, in a house that has to do with cultivation. I think that's really neat. Mm. Okay. So with the new moon in the second house plugging into this Saturn Jupiter square with Jupiter in the 11th, we've been really working on trying to expand our social network. Jupiter in the 11th is really interesting because it's like you could very well have been meeting people, um, not necessarily in your neighborhood, but definitely plugging in I mean, they could be local, but definitely plugging in with people that have some pretty interesting influence. They are Jupiter, by after all, they symbolize Jupiter, but they're really unusual or counterculture or foreign in some way. So that's kind of like an interesting signification of Jupiter transiting through the 11th. And in some way, these people are helping you reach your goals. Um, but again, it could be in a very different and unusual way. That's always fun. So you've been really wanting to expand in this area, meet more of those people, make more of those connections, and keep building that network out. And Saturn in the eighth is like, okay, sure, but there's some debts that you have to pay, whether they're spiritual, whether they're physical, that could be uh, that's up to spirit, really. I don't know. This could for some of you, this could be like, oh, okay, um, I need to pay a lot of attention to the finances of my partner because they're changing in some way, so however that ends up playing out for you, the karmic debt in that case would be, all right, well, my partner's going through some kind of thing where their resources are affected, and therefore I have to step in a little bit and be a more uh providing or Saturnian figure in this case. And the new moon in the second house is like, okay, Saturn is saying time to buckle down. There's debts that have to be paid. There's contracts that have to be fulfilled. And the new moon in the second house is like, all right, what other resources can I cultivate at this time? What kind of seeds can I plant at this time to help fulfill these Saturnian obligations? And perhaps there are connections that can help you do so. It's kind of an interesting way that might be feeding into each other. The order of operations really is Saturn is aspected first and then Jupiter. So it's more likely going to be you're planting the seeds, finding creative new ways to bring in different kinds or more resources, and then that is helping you fulfill the Saturnian thing, and then that in turn is opening the door to bigger and better and more of, these connections that you're wanting to make. Play. All the play. One day I'll play. Okay, Leo. What do we got for cards for you? Ooh, interesting. Interesting. So what I got for Leo is actually the 10 of wands. It's like the opposite of play. It's like the opposite of play. But I really feel like I mean, okay, so check it out, all right? Usually the 10 of wands is like feeling this really big burden and struggling with it and needing to push through and all this stuff, but look at how easy he is. Yeah, it's a heavy load, but he doesn't look like he's struggling that much, you know? It actually kind of looks like he's having an all right go of it. He's not very high off of the ground, but that's okay. He's still carrying it. Okay, I really like that. I really feel like that fits nicely for you, Leo. It's like there is this kind of intense Saturnian burden, but it doesn't feel like that much of a burden, especially with the people that are around you and the community that you've formed and the people that you inspire and all of the outpouring of love and help. I like that. I like that a lot. Um, it also kind of feels like you're nearing the finish line too, right? Like the the heaviness is is almost ready to burst, you know? Uh, we're almost there. So, yeah, just hold on a little bit longer and yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lightness, even though that card is typically kind of heavy, like there's just this lightness to it. Um, like the power of your willpower and your ability to play and keep it light and keep it fun is really helping the burdensome nature and the danger and the scariness of Saturn not feel so bad, right? Like it's like, no, it's fine. We got this. Look at me. I just built a crib. Shh. Yeah, exactly. Um, and like what an advantage it is to have wings, you know what I mean? I love that. I love that. And check it out. Underneath is the 6 of cups, but look at this 6 of cups. They look like roses. I know I haven't taken out the book for any of the other cards, but I'm just kind of curious what they're saying about their 6 of cups because roses is interesting. I'm going to read it to you. Fro returns to the place of his youth in search of finding his inner fledgling. Aw, Leo, reconnecting with your inner child. Duh. He stands in a field of cups, filling his heart with healing memories of a time that was less complicated. If you've been feeling overburdened, Ten of Wands, with day to day responsibilities, the Six of Cups brings the message to take a break and remember a moment in time when you felt free to just enjoy life and go play. Ah, like we need to tell Leo to play. Like, come on, really? Leo, is that what you're telling me? Like, whether it's a trip to your hometown or maybe a favorite vacation spot, it's time to recharge your spirit. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's cute. What a cute deck. Too cute. Okay. Go recharge your spirit, Leo. You got this. Okay. That's that's serious. Okay. Doo-doo-doo-doo. So for Cancer, for you guys, new moon is happening in your third house. So we are plugging into a Saturn Jupiter square between the 12th and the 9th. New moon in the third. So the third house has to do primarily with our local environment. It can deal with transportation and things that you encounter in your day-to-day life, that kind of stuff. The third house is actually the joy of the moon, interestingly enough. So the new moon here is like really nice for you guys. I kind of feel like there is and like a nice opportunity with this new moon to like recharge and reinvigorate your local environment with like just new life and new energy. So with the Jupiter in the 12th house transit, this is this is kind of so I feel like for you guys this has been kind of like being put on like I almost want to say on blast or on trial or like there's been something not particularly overwhelmingly positive about Jupiter in the 12th house because this is a house of loss. It's a difficult it's not as nice of a transit. It's like yes, Jupiter is a super benefic planet, brings lots of blessings, but in the 12th house, it's like how easy is it to receive those blessings? How easy is it to integrate those blessings? Is it coming out as like, it's easiest to access those blessings when you are alone in meditation, like I told Rel? Um, that kind of thing. It's like it's coming out, but it's coming out subconsciously. So it's like, yeah, Jupiter, awesome. But in the 12th house, it's a lot harder to access, if that makes sense. However, just like look forward to when Jupiter moves into Cancer, which is the exalted um sign for Jupiter. That'll be really awesome for you guys. So I look forward to that. But anyway, the square to the ninth, with the square to the ninth, if you have been like really wanting to expand spiritually, especially, the square to the ninth says you have to be determined and disciplined with the things that you're practicing. And like I told Ariel, maybe there is some kind of self-limiting belief or mindset that has been kind of nagging at you in the back of your mind and like, just go back and watch her reading. Go back and watch her reading. It could very well be that, there's something nagging in the back of your mind that's stopping you from like doing all of the things that you want to do. The new moon in the 3rd house is plugging into this theme that's been playing out over the last year, and I feel like it can be a nice kinda opportunity to really speak what's on your mind. It can be a nice opportunity to, bring something new into your local environment or engage with your neighbors in some way. That's actually something that I didn't mention to you, Ariel, especially if you've just moved. So if you've just moved because the eclipses were in your 4th house and it was like, "All right, time to uproot and put new roots down." Really try to engage in your local environment as well. Like that's a new moon in the 3rd house. That would be a really helpful way to use that energy. So like go to a class or join a club or something like that that's in your neighborhood. Make friends with your neighbors, you know. um and actually, since we're coming up to harvest season, you know what would be a really cool way to engage with neighbors? Do some seed swaps. Like go to some seed swaps. Um, People are overjoyed to share their heirloom seeds, even if you don't have any to give in return. Like um, the first time I planted calendula flowers was actually after an event like that. I went to, an event and this lady, uh, had messaged a bunch of people online and she was like, "Hey, I have calendula seeds." And I was like, "Wow, calendulas, those sound so lovely. I would love some." And I got some seeds, and that was the first time I planted calendula, and they're coming up in my mom's garden since then. And it's awesome. And I actually still have some. I don't know if they're viable, but I have some still. From that strain. So anyway, do something like that, like, try to plug into your local environment in some way, and, that could be, like, a really nice way to kinda invigorate your 3rd house a little bit with this new moon, and then as you're doing that, keep in mind that whatever kind of spiritual practices you've got going on, whatever kind of, uh if you're trying to, like, get any kind of creative written work out into the public, you have to be really disciplined with it. And address those self-limiting beliefs and put yourself out there anyway, even though there might be like a nagging voice in the back of your mind. If fucking ignore it, um, or ask it what it needs. Right? There's lots of different ways you can work with it, and yeah, that's kind of what's coming up for. They're so much awesome. They're so much awesome. They are so much awesome. I lost the ability to grammar. That's awesome. Great. Yeah, they're so cool. They're really cool. And then you can nerd out about plants for a little bit and ask a bunch of questions. Be like, "Oh, what do you use your calendula for?" Might learn a recipe or two, you know? Okay, what do we got for Cancer? Anytime now. Cancer, you don't have to be so shy. There it is. Cancer, where is the defensiveness coming from? What is going on with this? Interesting. Interesting. So the 9 of Wands. First, you must take a stance. Then you must defend that stance. It's kind of what comes up for me when I think about the 9 of Wands. There's a super like defiant energy. And I mean, that could be a really good thing, or it can be, um, yeah, seed swaps are the shit. It can be a really good thing, or it can put up unnecessary walls. So it kind of depends on what your situation is right now, right? Maybe the walls are a really beneficial thing and they're really needed, Saturn. Or maybe they are getting in your way in some fashion. But anyway, first you must take a stance, then you must defend it. That to me, um, that to me is the 9 of Wands. I don't want to defend. Girl, I feel you. But sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to. Running away doesn't solve everything. Fucking 8 of Cups. I just want to run away. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you need to confront. Uh, Dude, I feel the same. I feel this. I feel this. It's like, man. It's like you don't want to rock the boat. I get that. You don't want to rock the boat. You want to just harmonize, keep everything even keel. That'd be nice. Then there's less stress and it's less scary and conflict bad, but The 9 of Wands, maybe for some of you, Ariel, and maybe you need to be a little bit more confrontational and defensive about some things. And Stacey says, "Rock it, rock the damn boat, rock the damn boat." Yeah, exactly. And maybe for some of you, like these two energies are fucking exact opposites. What the fuck? How are you supposed to read that? And like, look at that, sun, moon. That's so funny. You'd think that I'm talking to Gemini, but no. Very, very yang energy. Nope, you're going to die on that hill. Meanwhile, it's like, oh man. I think this is going and we are talking to somebody ruled by the moon. Okay, that makes more sense. Waxing and waning, shifting and flux and okay. You have to use your discernment. Sometimes walking away is the better thing to do. Sometimes staying and defending is the better thing to do. You have to choose which is the right thing in the moment, and you're going to get it wrong sometimes. Sometimes you shouldn't rock the boat and you need to just leave it be. Sometimes you shouldn't run away and you need to rock the damn boat. It is a balancing act, Ruma, exactly. The word of the day is flow, says the Cancer Stellium. Stellium, of course. Yeah, it's all about flow. It really is. Um, choose your battles wisely. Um, one thing that's actually kind of like really standing out to me about both of these cards is the crow in both of these cards is alone. There are no other creatures in the picture. This is these are decisions that you have to make in the moment that are going to be individual to you. We are talking about new moon in the third house after all. We are talking about communication. So if you choose to defend and that was the wrong choice, forgive yourself. If you choose to run and that was the wrong choice and you end up having to defend yourself later anyway, forgive yourself. It's all about finding the balance. And if you find yourself routinely on one side of the pendulum than the other, and you try out the other side and it kind of swings a little too far and you go a little overboard, that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. When you practice doing one thing all of the time and then you're kind of forced into situations or you decide to just try out the other way, you're gonna kind of go overboard with it, but that's okay. That's okay. Forgive yourself, bring it back. Eventually, you'll get the swing of it. Hilarious. You'll get the hang of it. All right, we're on Gemini. Just want to check, make sure I haven't missed any notifications on my phone real quick. Nope, looks good. Okay, good, good, good. Good, good, good. All right, Gemini. I'ma be swinging. Just don't get charged with assault, okay? That's all. That's all I ask. Duh. Feel like I need to crack my neck. Oh, okay, Gemini. Somehow I unshared my screen. There we go. All my head. Okay, Gemini. So, how have you been doing with Mars in the first house and the and the Jupiter transit? Um, and Saturn in the 10th. This is kind of intense. So for Gemini rising, this new moon is happening in your fourth house. I think for most of you, the new moon in particular is going to be about setting intentions around how you want your home to be going forward and what you need to do to stabilize your home in order to, just continue rolling with the changes that have been happening and are going to continue to happen as the eclipses move into your fourth and 10th house. How this new moon plugs into the Jupiter Saturn square is that while Jupiter has been changing your identity and maybe expanding who you think you are and showing you different sides of who you think you are and allowing you to, embrace different aspects of your identity that you didn't know were there before. Saturn in the 10th house has been a fairly demanding presence, asking you to pay really close attention to how you structure your career. Maybe you are dealing with really demanding bosses or figures of authority. Um, you could be, uh, as your sense of self has been shifting and expanding. Maybe that has come into odds a little bit with how you're seen in the public eye, or maybe it's come at odds a little bit with other people that have some kind of authority over you. Either way, um, whichever way that is, or it's just like how I identify myself, the and I don't mean like uh, any particular politically loaded way with that anyway. By the way, um, like maybe you were a baker and you don't identify as a baker anymore. You know what I mean? That's actually what I mean. Or like, hey, there's actually so much more to me than just baking. Or or wow, I'm becoming a mother and I never thought of myself as a mom. Or my kids are leaving the house now. I am still a mom, but what am I in addition to that? Or um I am retiring and I'm no longer tied down to a job. So what does that make me? And can I find something that I identify with that's not career related? There's so many different ways to look at it. Um and Saturn in the 10th house can be not a very fun experience. It can be difficult. It can definitely be difficult. Because how you're seen by the world is changing, but the 10th house is also like it's something that we're really good at. So Saturn is actually asking us to buckle down and get even better at those things. So the new moon in your fourth house is really asking you to kind of like stabilize the home and the roots where you're putting down your roots, stabilize that. And that will really help you kind of like work through the awkwardness of the square between your first and 10th house with that's been going on for the entire year. And the advice that I gave to Peter earlier was it sounds stereotypical, but make sure you're taking care of the things like cleaning out the gutters and um, taking care of uh, the dead leaves or leaving them the fuck alone, depending on your philosophy, whatever you need to do. Cleaning up your home environment and making sure that that is super stable and super clean is really going to help you with, you know, balancing out the square that's happening here. Um, Something else you could do with this new moon is I picture like uh You know how um grass can kind of like grow over cement and like just gradually the dirt kind of shifts and the grass kind of like grows over and it's no longer a clean line. Well, Virgo is all about like clean, precise lines and perfect geometry. So maybe there's something in there about like taking some steps to clean things up in that way, where like the borders and the boundaries, the Saturnian things, but related to the home are like on point. Um, and maybe that's not your thing. You don't have to listen to me. You could do whatever you want, but um, those are the things that like come to mind, especially with Virgo on the fourth house. Is like whatever you end up doing, make it clean, right? Um, This could be a really excellent time to do something like dust all of the corners and nooks and crannies in your home. A really nice practice that I will do periodically is I'll take like a cloth and I'll put an essential oil on that cloth. Depends on what I'm feeling at the moment. Usually I'll pick something that's like clove and cinnamon and this time period is like pumpkin spice, maybe frankincense. And, as I wipe in the corners, I will bless the corners. I'll bless the, um, the edges, you know? And, there's something about cleanliness and something about, making it some kind of a sacred practice and really, like, grounding down into your home in some way that is really, really potent with this new moon. I am a mother and I no longer identify as a mother. Yeah, start baking some shit. Yes. Yes. Do it. Do it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. So a really on that note, a really cool boundary plant is comfrey. I love comfrey. Comfrey is associated with Saturn. It is called knit bone and it is the shit. It is so good. Um, Definitely look into comfrey. There's a couple different kinds of comfrey, but specifically there is one kind that can be used as a boundary plant and it will help you stop grass from growing in an area. Look up comfrey. And now is the time of yeah, comfort's the shit. Now is the time of year when, well, I guess once the leaves start dying, but now is the time of year when you can totally take bits of roots from plants like comfrey that spread via the root, and you're not really going to harm the plant because the season's almost done. So, yeah, now is the time when you're like planting your garlic and planting your onions and planting your stuff that's gonna sit over winter. Comfrey would totally be a badass addition to, a boundary. I like that. We're just gonna plant some crystals, hell yeah. Yeah, um, yeah, man, that's such a good one. Comfrey's the shit. Oh, okay, sorry. I get excited about plants sometimes. Oh, yeah, cards, Gemini. Sorry, Gemini. I spaced for a second. I got so excited about comfrey. Yeah. Oh, man. What cards do we have for Gemini? Ooh. Page of Swords. I like that you could, like the picture's kinda funny. It's like, at first glance, it looks like he has the sword in his talons, but also in his beak. But that I don't think that's I don't think that's what's going on. So that's I think pretty sure this card is actually associated with Gemini, so that's kind of fun. And underneath the deck is the 3 of Wands as well. Okay, so there is this feeling of needing movement, of needing or desiring movement, and the act of moving or cleaning and moving things around is definitely active. Um, Page of Swords. There could be I'm pulling out the book for this one. I don't know, I feel like there's some new ideas and concepts that you're wanting to try out. So try them out. Okay. I'm gonna read the book to you because I like this idea of the crow. It's cute. Okay, so the young crow uses his strength and stamina to carry the sword through an intense energy storm. Oh, there is a storm. I didn't even pick up on that. Sometimes reading the book is good. Okay. Along the way, he may have lost a few feathers, but it was a small price to pay for a chance at something more significant. The page has found his stride and approaches the goal with steady and relentless determination. Hell yeah, Page, let's go. The Page of Swords arrives with a message to throw caution to the wind. Get out there and fly. Oh, the time is now to take action. The page denotes movement, energy, and communication, all of which are essential for embarking on a new adventure. I like that. I think that taking action right now, cleaning out the necessary things with determination, I really like that keyword in there is really helping you regain some dominion, right? The 3 of Wands is about dominion. So I think that's really perfect. And I think that that is succinct and we're going to leave it there. Leaving it there. Ariel asks, can you explain how listening to my Venus sign of Capricorn could be helpful to unpack things? I know I have a ton of planets there, but leaning towards Venus. Ooh. I'm curious. You know what I didn't look at is what perfection year you were in. So let me look it up real quick. I mean, okay, so Venus signifies all right, so there's two ways to look at what a planet means in your birth chart. The first is what house it's in and what signs and houses it therefore rules. So for Venus being in Capricorn is in your seventh house, therefore it's naturally associated with relationships. And then also what houses it rules. So Taurus, which is your 11th, and Libra, which is your fourth. Yes, fourth. Therefore, it's associated with like associations and networks and friends and your home and like ancestry. So that's one way to look at Venus. What houses in, what houses it does it rule? And then the other but more obvious and easier easier to access way to look at it is, what does Venus symbolize, period? Venus is relationships. Venus is beauty. Venus is love. Venus is harmony, justice. Some associations, Venus is a goddess of war, but Venus is love and relationships. So Venus in the seventh and Venus's natural significations is like relationships. So if relationships is a big theme that you're really curious about, there you have it. Um, and then just because I'm curious in like the technical side of things, doesn't matter what time. Let's do Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So this is I did say perfection year. Not perfection, but profection. Perfection. Perfect. Everyone's perfect. Okay, so perfection year. Let me talk about this real quick. Side quest. We're gonna Gemini side quest. Okay, so every year you have a new Time Lord for the year based on what profection year you're in. So there are annual profections, there are monthly profections, and daily profections, where essentially a new sign takes over. So from 0 to 1, you're in a first house profection year. After your first birthday until your second birthday, you're in a second house profection year. So on and so forth, around and around we go. For each new year, the planet that rules that sign is the Time Lord for the year. Time Lords, yes, like Doctor Who. So, so for Ariel, right now, she's in a ninth house profection year because she has just turned. A lady never reveals her age. So for Ariel, they're your annual profection. Your Time Lord for the year is Jupiter, and any transits through the ninth house through Pisces will be more significant. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. That doesn't mean that like you're wrong or anything like that. Especially because couple of things about Pisces. Yes, it's ruled by Jupiter, but the exaltation ruler of Pisces is Venus. So there's technically two planets that you could look at, but typically you would just look at Jupiter. But anyway, so then if I go back to your birth chart, oh, big yawn. Excuse me. Jupiter, right? Because we're looking at the ninth house perfection. Jupiter's in the third house and it's in a whole sign trine to Venus. It's not exact. It's like it's 14 degrees away, so it's not very close at all. But anyway, um yeah, and I'm not saying like you're wrong, don't look at Venus. That's just one thing that I wanted to look up and just see like, hey, what's going on? What is your yearly perfection right now? Ninth house. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, but anyway, so if you yeah. So close, yet so far. Yeah. So anyway, Yeah, but if you're leaning towards listening to the Capricorn one because you've got Venus on the mind, then listen to the Capricorn one because you've got Venus on the mind. Also, you have a friggin' stellium in Capricorn, so yeah, typically what that means. So a stellium, for anybody that doesn't know, a stellium is 3 or more planets. Ariel has Mars, Venus, Neptune, Uranus, and the North Node all in Capricorn. So that is definitely a stellium. So when that happens, that sign, that archetype, and that house tends to be really loud. So yeah, listen to the Capricorn one too. It very well could be like, yes, exactly, like your 5 cancers. 100%. So that could very well it could be that maybe the Capricorn one kind of resonates for you. Who am I to say? So yeah, go back, listen to it, let me know. Drop a comment below. All right. Well, it did. Now you know why she moms everyone. Now you know. Okay, Taurus. The more you know. All right. She can't help it. The woman's got 5 planets in Cancer. So good. It's so good. Okay. Taurus. Taurus. Thank you for your patience. We're 3 hours later. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. All right. So, Taurus, for you guys, new moon in the fifth house. Dun dun dun. I like that. That's really beautiful. Fifth house has to do with our creative endeavors. It has to do with a little bit of romance, but mostly our creative endeavors and children, really. It's a big thing. The things that we consider our children. They can be like actual children or it could be like our like metaphorical babies. But not our fur babies. Fur babies is sixth house. But anyway. So new moon in the fifth house, absolutely beautiful. How it plugs into the Jupiter Saturn square, we've been wanting to expand our resources. So for a lot of you, this can look like you're cultivating different skills or literally trying to grow your investments or like, it can be multiple different layers. And for some of you actually, for some of you it can be like you're collecting precious metals or high art or all sorts of different kinds of forms of capital. For some of you it's like quite literally just honing different skills that are going to help you acquire different skills or different types of resources. This is what we've been wanting to expand with Jupiter. However, there's something about the networks that we're a part of that are kind of throwing up different obstacles in our way. And it's interesting because the 11th house is like our hopes and our wishes and our dreams and the people that we meet along the way that help us reach those goals. But Saturn is like somebody very difficult to deal with. Saturn can be somebody that is quite demanding, or somebody that is maybe a little bit controlling, or somebody that is rather melancholic, somebody that is in Pisces super spiritual and way out there, but maybe that is an ungrounding experience for you even. Or maybe you're like, you're really into it. Who knows? Maybe I don't I'm trying not to go down too many too many too many side passages here, but for whatever reason, um Saturn in the 11th is throwing up different obstacles for you. It's like you want to do these things to grow your resources, but there are obligations to a group that have to be met first. The new moon in the fifth house, this is really nice. It's like eh, you're coming up, you might be able to come up with some really nice creative ways. Fifth house, creativity, literally some kind of art projects or some kind of art gatherings, even if you tie in the 11th house here, like some kind of for-profit charity driven art gala kind of thing, you know, that help you accomplish both goals. There's if you can somehow tie in a group of people into whatever creative thing that you're thinking of, that can help alleviate some of the Saturnian square that's being applied to the second house, financial matters. Yeah. You guys are the best. Just reading the chat. Fair enough. Oh man. I appreciate you guys. You guys are the shit. All right, Taurus. Okay, that came out really quick. I like that. Oh, so we have the Six of Swords, and it came out at the same time as the King of Wands. Something about this, well, actually, there's a lot of creative energy in the King of Wands. I'm really liking that. There's something in this about needing to willingly take a leadership role to organize whatever you've got going on. And I don't know, it might involve breaking away from the conventional way of you normally operating. Like the six of swords, sorry, is kind of like, I mean, it's fairly tumultuous, this particular image. Like that's really obvious. And the last card, the page of swords, it was a little less obvious that there was like a serious storm going on. This one's very obvious. It's like, okay, there's some tumultuous kind of shit. You're losing feathers. It's not easy to navigate, but you're going to successfully. As it's almost like as soon as you step into the role of a leadership position, like you can't run away from being a leader. You need to embrace that and step into that role and like claim that crown for yourself. And that's how you make it through the difficulty and the awkwardness of that square. It's like you need to take advice from Leo a little bit. Play for the sake of play. I like that. Play for the sake of play, and don't you don't necessarily need to do it for an audience. Ah, don't necessarily need to do it for an audience. Underneath the deck, by the way, I haven't been showing you guys underneath the deck for everybody, but uh, there is a tower underneath the deck. So this is more of this tumultuous stuff. I would kind of want to say like you can't run away from everything. Um, there's a there are unpleasant experiences that have to be met face on with the confidence and charisma of a leader. Uh, I would encourage not running away. I would encourage facing them. We had that debate earlier. We talked about that a lot earlier. So definitely face them head on and be creative about it. Um, yeah, be creative about it. Okay. Aries, I made it. We made it together. Look at us go. Aries. Okay. For you guys, new moon falls in the sixth house and it plugs into this very interesting square between your third and 12th house. So, first of all, new moon in the sixth house. This has to do, well, the sixth house, not a very fun house. It is the practices that you will bleed for. It's really fun. It's the joy of Mars. It is the things that you do that you have to do over and over and over again that you need to do that require grit and determinism. It is not a nice house. It is a house of misfortune. Unfortunately, a new moon here plugging into this third 12th square. Well, Jupiter in the third, you've been wanting to um, expand some of the connections in your local environment. That's the third house, like your neighborhood, quite literally. You've been wanting to maybe learn a new language or just learn something new in general, especially with Jupiter. Jupiter's like, I want to learn all the things all at once. But there's something perhaps subconscious or, there's some kind of spiritual practice that you need to pay attention to at the same time. So, like, yes, you want to go and meet all of the neighbors, but at the same time, you need to study. Like, I think of, I'm actually thinking of Juan from the One on One podcast. Like, I don't know, he's popping into my mind right now. And this might not be true for him at all, but like, I get this image of like your wife or your partner of some kind being like, "Hey, come to this barbecue at the neighbors," and you're like, "But babe, I have to study for this show that I'm doing about the homunculus, and like I need to do that." Like it's that kind of energy, you know? Um, and not to poke fun. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Juan. He's not gonna see this, but I'm sorry. Um, but that's kinda how it goes. That's kinda how it goes. It's like we kinda want to expand over here, and maybe the other people in our environment want to expand over here, but there's some deep study that we need to do, or, maybe even for some of you, there's, some sleep disturbances or stuff like that that's coming up. The 6th house new moon is kind of like an opportunity to help you reset some of that stuff. For me, what comes to mind right now is like working to reset your sleep schedule. Or working to right, and like that perfect example, that's something that like you're not going to do in one night. You kind of have to change a few different habits in order to help yourself get to sleep earlier, like screens off earlier, um, turn off your Wi-Fi router, like a bunch of different stuff needs to happen in order for you to like reset your sleep schedule when it's out of whack, right? That kind of thing. It's something that's like not necessarily easy to do, but new moon, perfect time to start doing um one or more of those practices, especially if Saturn in the 12th house is not as nice as I've let it sound. Like, oh, studying. That could be a really nice Saturn in the 12th house thing, or it could be like you're dealing with, some serious depression, right? If that's the case and you're dealing with some kind of like depressive episodes, melancholic stuff is coming out, well, then it's really important for you to ground into the physical, into your body by, really taking care of yourself and upping your self-care regimen, like taking care of your dental work. That's a very Saturn thing. Um, Going on longer walks, whatever you need to do to balance out the needs of Saturn right now. And that will help kind of relieve some of the tension here. And then you can go and enjoy being in the neighborhood and making your local connections a little bit more. I hope that makes sense, Aries. Now, a card for Aries. And then after this, if there are no more requests for personal readings, I'm going to wrap it up. Whoa. Okay, Aries. Wha- Those came out really fast and is it's cracking me up because I can feel like the annoyance from chance. Like you made me wait for 3.5 hours. What the fuck? Bam, 3 cards, and they're all really beautiful cards. So I'm like, hey, this is not a fun axes, and then all the cards are like beautiful. Call me a liar then. Fuck. Um, so we got the strength card. Gorgeous. I love that. Check it out. That's beautiful. He's almost yawning. The 10 of Cups. Okay, I see where this is going. Again, there's one of the cards with poppies on it, and the Queen of Pentacles also has poppies on it. Okay. Okay. So, beautiful cards on the surface. Yes. Be very careful about your addictive or escapism habits right now. Um, yes. Saturn in Pisces in the 12th. It could be really, really easy to get lost in hedonism and escapism. They are really beautiful cards, but sorry. Um, it could be really easy to get lost in escapism and go into fantasy land. I feel like this is a beautiful opportunity to practice the lighter sides of these cards. Do some art, play some games, do the escapist things, but in moderation. I think that the Queen of Pentacles coming out is coming out in a bid for you to stay grounded. I think that it is just a little hint, a little nudge from the universe to stick with your um your bodily habits, your bodily needs, and really be taking care of those things. If you have any kind of like pent up emotions that need to come out, especially related to your fiery emotions, find some way to channel them in healthy ways rather than allowing them to come out in unhealthy ways. I think that overall, these are really beautiful cards, and there's like really nice signs of hope on the horizon. So if you are one of the Aries that's been dealing with the more melancholic side of Saturn, then, there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, especially if you stick with some of your long-term goals, especially if you channel some of that creativity in really nice ways, you know. Keep dreaming, you know, keep dreaming, but have an action plan with it as well, because that's how you're really going to see some really serious success. Um, and hell yeah, keep kicking ass, Aries. Beautiful. Nice. I like that. All right, last call. Last call. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for hanging out. This was fun. It's been a while since I've done a really a really long live stream, so I appreciate you guys coming out. For those of you that stuck around to the end, you are the shit. You're the best. Um, and yeah, I would like to do this more regularly. We'll see what happens going forward. I think this is going to be a really nice new moon for a lot of different reasons. It's kind of like the calm before the storm of the eclipse season, so that'll be interesting. I'm definitely going to come back to talk about the eclipses though, so don't panic. Um, yeah, thank you guys. Love you, love you, love you, love you. Thanks for hanging out, and yeah, have a good night.